What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 624 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast, Hot Tags of the Week, where we will be breaking down some of the current events and rumors and news and gossip and TV recap and other things happening in the world of pro wrestling over the past few days that we feel like talking about. And if you don't know who we are, I am your host, as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by Callum Wiggins.
Hello there.
And of course, as always, as we tell you what we have to say about these topics, we want to know what you have to chime in about. So drop your thoughts in the comments below on YouTube. And while you do that, make sure you hit the like button on this video. Double check that you are subscribed to the channel. Ring that little notification bell. That way you get the email alert of when we go live for the Full Gear pay-per-view point post show tomorrow night. Some people expressing interest in tuning in for the main event thing. So I might go ahead and do that tomorrow. I still haven't quite decided yet. So again, let me know if you would be interested in doing that, or if you would rather me just wait until the whole pay-per-view is completely done. The more people that are interested, the one way or the other, that'll dictate that. So keep all that in mind, but make sure you're tuning in for that when you have your emails set up for that. Also, if you want to help us out on the monetary side of things, help us fund future episodes and continue to keep the lights on here, patreon.com/smarkoutmoment is one method for you to get access to the Darkcast tier or the Pick Your Poison tier, or just $1 a month. All that is greatly appreciated. The little thanks button there on YouTube is also another way to pass along some spare change if you are not able to get into the super chats, for instance. And there's also the join button. It's exactly the same thing as the Patreon, same exact tiers. The only option being that you get the video stuff rather than just audio only. And if you want to pick up some merchandise, Redbubble and TeePublic are where you can find that. And keep all that in mind as we go along here, because if you enjoy this podcast, we'd greatly appreciate any help on that front. So, we are doing the podcast a day early in advance. I got some stuff tomorrow that I'm going to be doing, a reunion that's going to get in the way of us recording at the normal time. So, today, I don't anticipate that anything is going to happen tonight that's going to be like, oh man, if we would have waited until tomorrow, we could have talked about it, but you never really know.
Ring of Honor's happening tonight.
Yeah, I don't anticipate anything happening there. They could announce some more matches to the pay-per-view on Ring of Honor tonight. Maybe they do add like a, Ring of Honor Women's Championship match or something along those lines to there, but nothing added to the card for Full Gear last night. The only thing that they did was they switched up. We didn't know if it was going to be Red Velvet or Sky Blue in the TBS Championship match. We all assumed that it was going to be Sky Blue, and lo and behold, it's Sky Blue. So it's exactly the same situation as what we talked about before. No new additions to the card, no tweaks, no announcement about MJF's partner, no twists and turns that I at least took away from this as anything that would change my opinion. Is there anything that happened on this episode of Dynamite that influences your thoughts on Full Gear one way or another?
I mean, for most of the matches, I'm more excited for it. Like, I thought it was a good show, and there were matches that took place that made me more interested for. I think they built up Cassidy versus Moxley well. There was a great promo segment between Paige and Swerve. That
was good.
That really added the intensity to it, with Paige basically saying that he's going to be Swerve's judge, jury, and executioner. And all the stuff they were saying about his fiance leaving him, and if his kid's not talking to him, like, he really cut to the bone there. Pretty much every match, all the matches that were kind of featured on Dynamite, I kind of got more interested in, outside of, arguably, actually the only one that I didn't get more pumped up for was MJF versus Jay White. It was kind of actually a bit of a letdown, that final promo segment, I thought.
Yeah, I don't even honestly remember much about what he said. It seems like
he was talking too much about the devil thing, and he's talking too much about the friendship and like the fans getting behind him, rather than actually, saying that he's going to beat up Jay White and take his title back. So it kind of lost focus for me. I think he was concentrating too much on things that don't really matter and not on the thing that does matter, which is his next challenger.
And they didn't do too much to set up more of the ROH tag title thing. Like, the Guns attacked him, but yeah, that's nothing new. And they did do a little wrinkle in the Young Bucks story where they're definitely going into this match heels, and they seemed like they were already going into the match as the heels, given the opportunity, who's going to be cheering for who. they are like the bratty, whiny team compared to the Golden Jets, but the match with Penta and Commander is just like, okay, well, they definitely are playing heel here.
I mean, it's odd because this is their home state. It's not exactly like their hometown, but this is like it's where they kind of are best known for is their work in California. So it's quite odd that they're the ones working heel, but I guess it makes sense when it's Omega on the other side. But the segment they did on the show, like that was just Brawl Out. That was just a mock-up of Brawl, like the instance of Brawl Out, like the Bucks attacking, and then Kenny said, "Hey, we're just here to talk. We just want to talk," and like not getting involved, trying to just break things up. Like the only way it could have been more on the nose is that just a random dog just came up and bit a Maker on the arm.
Maybe that was planned and they couldn't get a dog in time.
Yeah.
I mean, we pretty much ran down Dynamite as we're just talking about this, but is there anything else that happened on Dynamite? We might as well talk about it.
The street fight was fun, and I know that there was like it lended too much into the goofy side a little bit in certain instances, like Ibushi riding a bicycle down to the ring and lightly tapping people with a lead pipe as he went down. But then you have Brian Cage clotheslining him onto his neck off of it, and then the spot of the entire show, which was Powerhouse Hobbs body slamming Paul White onto a car, just him sliding off, and it's like he's limited, but he did the best with what he could do, which is fall onto a car. But it was a good match, and I think that even though, you know, realistically the heels had a 4-on-3 advantage after White was taken out and they were playing off and all that stuff, I think they did it in a way where they incapacitated Hobbs by tying him up to the ropes and taking out some of the lesser people. Obviously, Brian Cage taking the fall, which makes sense. He's not really involved in this story. He was just loaned to them for the night.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I thought the match was a fun way to. It would have been a fun way to end the show, but then we had the MJF segment after that. So, but yeah, I think it was it was a fun episode of Dynamite, and I think based on the result of the tag match earlier in the show, that we're probably almost certainly now getting Willie Uta versus Hook for the FTW title, because Uta pinned Hook in that tag match. So
yeah, it seems like that's. I mean, I'm surprised that they didn't announce it already. Maybe they are just.
They'll announce it on. I mean, there's still Rampage and Collision Friday, so they'll probably announce it there, like make it official. But I would be very, very shocked if that wasn't to happen. But they could put it on TV. Who knows? Yeah,
I mean, they could always just wait until next week. They are missing a few, based off of the track record, like we've said on the pay-per-view point. They usually have somewhere between 2 to 4 matches on the pre-show, and right now they're only at 1. So whether they add that or they save that and then add some other matches to that, we're still yet to find out. But of course, if they do announce anything different on Friday night than on Saturday, we'll see it.
Yeah, but they have announced that there is something that's going to be on Full Gear that isn't a match, but it's something that we're supposed to be excited for.
Yeah, that is... let me try to find the exact wording that he had put out there, because I don't have that up right now. But Tony Khan had set up that they have signed somebody else. Now, we know that Kota Ibushi is signed to the company, so it's not Kota Ibushi here, but his tweet was, AEW has agreed to terms with one of the world's best wrestlers, a pro who is known and respected by virtually every AEW fan. They'll come to LA to sign their contract this Saturday at Full Gear. So the speculation, of course, that I've seen has been revolving primarily around 4 people. Mercedes Moné being the top of the line, which we've all been talking about her going to AEW for like how many months now? I mean, even before she left WWE, it was a topic.
It's in California. It kind of revolves around someone who is like now more, has done a few like big TV gigs. So it makes sense that that would be the right place for her to sign if that was the case.
There's a chance that it could be Dolph Ziggler. He seems to be the second most prominently featured name that a lot of people are mentioning for me.
It the phrase respected kind of loses it a little bit there, but maybe.
Well, I mean, Ziggler's one of those guys that mostly everybody would be like, yeah, he could go in the ring better than a lot of other people. But it also depends on, one of the world's best wrestlers, a pro who is known and respected by virtually every AEW fan. Specifically mentioning by virtually every AEW fan kind of makes me think that it might be somebody that we've seen in AEW before.
Potentially.
As opposed to one of the other people that a lot of people are talking about, which is Mustafa Ali. Like, he has never shown up in AEW.
No.
But he could very well be that type of person, and they could just be the wording for here could be a little bit off, and it's like virtually respected by virtually every AEW fan, meaning people know that they're good in the ring, generally speaking.
I think it's because now he can ring, and also that he's genuinely perceived to be a good guy as well.
Right.
So maybe that's part of it.
And it could offset the Ric Flair signing.
Yeah, and that might be a good way of karma balancing for the company.
A lot of people are talking about it being Will Ospreay, but as far as I'm aware, he can't sign until
he's
like January or February, right?
As far as I'm aware, he's probably usually Bushiroad contracts run until March. So I think that it's unlikely that he is going to be available up until March at probably the latest would be. But I don't think that, certainly we know that he's wrestling at Wrestle Kingdom for a New Japan Championship. So I don't think that he's going to be announced as signing with AEW prior to Wrestle Kingdom.
Some other names that I've seen people tossing out there are that I do not anticipate are going to be the person. Mandy Rose.
One of the world's best wrestlers.
Right. That's where I'm like,
respected by AEW fans.
Yeah. Like I don't picture Tony Khan saying that tweet about, not to, Mandy Rose did better work towards the end of her career than she had done before, but that's just that phrasing doesn't seem to apply to her. And the same for people saying like, oh, what if it's Sami Callihan? No, I don't think that strikes Sami Callihan either.
No. There's as I say, there are people outside of maybe our realms where we are less familiar with. Like, it could be Mystico if they managed to actually get a deal with Mystico going. I don't know how firmly tied he is with CMLL and whether it's like this would be like a firm him signing with AEW, but he is probably in many people's eyes the biggest star in Mexico right now. So it wouldn't be out of the question for him to come in, especially after he pulled in quite a big rating for a Rampage match with Rocky Romero.
I don't think that the well-respected thing quite as much applies. He's had some issues with people, right?
I think I don't think it's like in one of those ways that the AEW fans would not like him for it. It might be like behind the scenes thing, but he's definitely much better placed these days than he was when he was Sin Cara. So, but I think that but I don't expect it to be him, but I do expect him to be someone who pops up in AEW more often because of how his debut went down, which for overall seemed to be a positive. But there might be other big names in Mexico that we're somewhat unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
That could be coming over. Like Vikingo could be signed.
Yeah, it could be him. I forgot about him. I don't know about like how their contracts work or what his situation's all about. I'm looking at a list right now of free agents, which I think that this probably needs to be updated a little bit to just take some people out there, because I highly doubt that anybody's really going to be signing like Tyler Rust. It's been a while since he's been out there, and I mean, if they would have said that they came to terms with two people, then I would have thought maybe grizzled young veterans. But yeah,
they seem they're quite happy touring at the moment or doing the independent circuit. So I don't think they're going to sign to any full-fledged company, at least not in a long-term thing for a while.
Yeah, probably. Highlight out that this is like Quincy Elliott or Rick Boogs or Matt Riddle or
I hope it's not Matt Riddle.
Yeah,
just add on top of the Ric Flair thing. That would be.
Yeah, most of these names on this list, there's a good portion of the names that I can see that are out there that are free agents that I just don't know anything about, like Jake Christ. I just don't know him. Or Hideki Suzuki. Some people did mention Flip Gordon, which is like, are you going back to the beginning of AEW days?
He's now officially signed with CMLL.
Oh, okay.
That was the big thing because he put out an Instagram thing saying there's going to be a press conference of him announcing who he'd signed with, and he'd shown a photo with like a WWE hat, an AEW hat, and an NWA hat in front of him. And then everyone said, well, if it's one of those three options, we know which one it is. Like, it's not going to be one of the other ones. But I think that, but yeah, he's now signed with CMLL. So,
it's going to be totally Dabakato. It would be pretty hilarious if it was.
It was fucking Top Dollar.
God,
rolled around laughing.
Top Dollar arguing with Jim Cornette recently on Twitter.
Yeah, so you like the thing about broken clocks kind of applies here, I think.
Yeah. Oh god, what if it's CM Punk?
It's just Tony Khan just there. It says like CM Punk, and then it's just I think again. They did that little brawl out thing on there. Then maybe both sides are just teasing. Maybe they both just have like this mutually assured destruction thing. Like none of us are going to sign CM Punk, but we're going to tease the hell out of the fact we are. Like CM Punk is coming in anytime soon.
That's like the one thing that they can get along with. They're like, we're far apart on a lot of other issues, but we both like this idea of playing around with the CM Punk thing.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd say there are a few options. My money's on. Well, Monet is on Monet.
Yeah.
But so because I think that again, he might be making a rod out for his own back if he's made the announcement like this and it's not Mercedes, because that's you immediately build up expectations in people's mind that it's this type of person, this caliber of person, and not to shit on either Ziggler or Mustafa Ali, who are excellent wrestlers. But they don't have the star power that Mercedes has. Yeah,
I do feel like if they want to go for the biggest announcement, it's got to be Mercedes. But I do think that there's a really good chance that it could be Ziggler. And they could do some kind of like an angle immediately out of the gate where it's like he signs the thing and somebody's, hey, fuck you, we don't want you around here or something.
But again, it's not even to crap on him again, because I've made my feelings clear on this point in previous podcasts, but it's a case of, if you're in this current rut where people are really starting to pinpoint on you just signing aging former WWE guys, is that really the route you want to take again with this guy? Like, surely at least sign a couple of new interesting people and then go to Ziggler and say, okay, we've signed some fresher faces, now we can bring another old guy in.
Yeah, because Kota Ibushi's not on the, he's not 20 years old. Mariah May's young, though. She was his new signing, so.
Oh, yeah, but, like, again, she's not, like, she was so, I'd say, not prominent that she was just introduced in the backstage segment.
Yeah, they didn't roll out the red carpet for her.
Yeah, whereas Kota is obviously a big deal, even though he's definitely not at the level that he once was. But, yeah, I'd say it's not out of the realm of possibility that it is either Ali or Ziggler, but I think that, I'd say, I think that the only right option based on the gravitas of the tweet is Mercedes.
So speaking on the AEW front, let's continue rolling on here. We talked a little bit about this on the pay-per-view point, but the Continental Classic tournament is going to be a round-robin tournament. 12 wrestlers going to be competing over the course of the next few weeks. The finals are going to take place at Worlds Collide. We kind of thought that maybe they would announce more people on Dynamite, or that they might announce more on Full Gear. They still might announce more people at Full Gear. Currently, it's still just Bryan Danielson. They didn't say anybody else.
Yeah, I think that I was hoping they were saving it for Full Gear, because it feels like it's a good opportunity to take a bit of a pause in the action, because AEW shows, obviously they're long in by virtue of the fact there's a load of matches, and most of their matches go pretty long, but it's more of a case of it's just match. There's no real pause, whereas obviously with WWE shows, there's usually like 15 minutes in between each matches where they do a load of video packages you've seen a million times before, and and Roman Reigns' entrance and all that other stuff. So this is a good opportunity to take a bit of a pause, just announce some really cool names and get the crowd to pop a little bit without tiring them out too much. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this tournament. It looks like, I'd say, with the caliber of wrestlers that AEW has, and if you've now just given them a fully focused, this is a tournament you're now involved in, you're going to be wrestling all these other great wrestlers. you can't really go too badly wrong with this, as long as Danielson doesn't get injured again.
Which he's got to be careful on that front, since he keeps just jumping into these matches and then getting hurt, and then the next thing you know, it's kind of like you're putting your future major matches like the Okada one in jeopardy. And I mean, he is wrestling right after a broken orbital bone. It's not something that just goes away in a 2 days.
Yeah, it's only a couple of weeks after supposedly having surgery on it. And again, he could wrestle in kind of not an Undertaker style mask. I don't assume he goes full Phantom of the Opera, but it can have some equivalent of the mask protecting him. You do see people, like actual athletes and sports people, go out there with like sort of like masks in place if they've suffered an eye injury. So it's not out of the question, but obviously his body has shown a tendency to break down quite a bit over the last couple of years. So hopefully he keeps himself healthy enough that he can fight Okada at Wrestle Kingdom.
Do you think he's going to have an all natural like hemp mask or something?
I don't know how much protection that gives, but I'm sure if there is one out there, he'll find it.
Right.
So,
what was it? That was what the belt was made out of, right? It was like,
that was the well, at least what they said it was.
Yeah. I mean, it might have been made out of horrible plastics for all we know. I think he probably would have been a little bit upset if they would have told him that it would have been like eco-friendly, and then they just pump out another plastic one for him. But when we get more information about the Continental Classic, we'll of course break down the bracket, talk about our future predictions of who's gonna walk away with however many points and lead to the finals. But until they announce something more, and I think I said Worlds Collide earlier instead of World's End. I keep wanting to say Worlds Collide. It's just gonna be a thing. You're gonna have to deal with that. Outside of AEW, before we get into the WWE stuff, let's talk about some New Japan things. You said that Strong had what was it called, Lonestar Shootout?
Yeah, so this was like what was seen as like a cross-branded thing between New Japan and New Japan Strong. But yeah, so they had a show in Texas on the 10th, so just less than a week ago. As I won't go through every single match because a lot of them didn't really amount to too much of being like super important. So the ones that did mean something. He had Eddie Kingston. He successfully defended the Strong Openweight title against Satoshi Kojima. Another example of Eddie Kingston versus veteran Japanese guy. Solid match as you'd expect. Blackpool Combat Club, Wheeler Yuta and John Moxley, who now won on Dynamite, also won on this night against Kenta and David Finlay, which is a preview to Moxley and Finlay and Will Ospreay fighting for this new, whatever the title was going to be for New Japan at Wrestle Kingdom, the replacement for the US Championship.
Still no information about what they might change it to?
No, they haven't given it a name yet. It's still is listed for the IWGP. Now it's listed for the IWGP United Kingdom Heavyweight Championship. So it's changed around a few times already, but yeah, no official new name for a title. You had Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Mike Bailey in a match for the New Japan Pro Wrestling World Television Championship. So Zack Sabre Jr. has held that title since Wrestle Kingdom this year, so he's held it all year. And then it was announced that he will be defending that title at Wrestle Kingdom against Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Wow. That should be good.
Yeah.
I know you've been saying that Tanahashi's not up to what he used to be in the past, but I got a feeling that Zack Sabre Jr.
He's 47 years old, and this is the 12th singles match they've had since Zack joined New Japan Pro Wrestling. So it feels like a bit overkill. And also, there's a phrasing about the New Japan World Television title when it was first announced, which was the phrase that this is a title which would be built around fast action with 15-minute time limits, and that it would be a title that would be mainly focused around the young wrestlers of New Japan to step up and do something.
Yeah, it kind of goes against that then.
Yeah, and now you're putting Zack, who's obviously he's not an old guy. He's 36, so he's not like super old, but he's kind of was there to be like, okay, he's a good established name to give that title to, and then you have the young guy beat him, and then you can move forward with it. And now they're just going to do it with Tanahashi on this show, and it just there's kind of a theme with a lot of Wrestle Kingdom which feels a bit meh at the moment. But I'll explain the other reason for that moving forward. They had Mayu Iwatani defeated Stephanie Becker for the to retain the IWGP Women's Championship. Again, a decent enough match. They don't really give the women's matches a lot of time in the actual main New Japan shows. And Stephanie Becker is someone who's attracting a lot of attention for some good work she's been doing in CMLL. I think that there's a good chance that she just pops up on Ring of Honor or like a Rampage or something like that in the near future.
I don't think I've heard anything about her yet, but then again, I'm not paying attention to CMLL, so...
I think she was involved in the she fought Mercedes Moné on the show where Mercedes was supposed to win the Strong Championship. That was the semi-final, was her against it, and that was a good match. But obviously Mercedes didn't win because she got injured. But and then the main event was Shingo Takagi defeated Trent Beretta to retain the Never Openweight Championship, and then he was challenged by Tama Tonga for Wrestle Kingdom, which is weird. It's even weird by New Japan standards this year recently because Shingo beat Tama Tonga for the title a couple of weeks ago, and New Japan isn't really in the business of doing immediate rematches. That's just not how they operate, and yet they're giving one to Tama Tonga here at Wrestle Kingdom. And again, it just feels very anticlimactic because if anyone watches New Japan regularly, Shingo Takagi is a very, very top line wrestler in terms of just ring work, and Tama Tonga's fine. He's totally serviceable, but he was just a champion. He's been feuding for this title all year pretty much with David Finlay, and so it felt like, okay, there's an opportunity to do something new, and they're just retreading their steps again, and it just feels a lot of the way with a lot of these matches. So obviously Danielson versus Carter will be good, but we have technically seen this match before. Sonada versus Tetsuya Naito, as I've already discussed, is like cold as hell as a main event. Doing Tanahashi in a title match, which should be reserved for the younger guys in New Japan. And then you got like Hiromu versus El Desperado, which is like they're the two best, almost I guess, popular people in the junior division, but we've seen them wrestle countless times in the last 2 or 3 years. So everything around Wrestle Kingdom feels a bit meh at the moment. So, but we'll see if it picks up because they have revealed the World Tag League lineups. So this is the tournament that they use to determine who will challenge, typically for the tag team championships at Wrestle Kingdom. So the names that have been listed are Shota Umino and Ren Narita, who are kind of two of those musketeers that they've been touting a lot. So these are two of the young guys that really should be fighting for the TV title. And now they're just teaming up for the tag team. Tomohiro Ishii and Toru Yano, who are kind of like often tag team that will appear on this. United Empire's Great O'Khan and Hanare. The Mighty Don't Kneel, Shane Haste and Mikey Nichols, obviously from TM61.
Yeah.
The Bullet Club War Dogs of Alex Coughlin and Gabe Kidd. House of Tortures, Evil and Yujiro Takahashi. Kaito Kiyomiya and Ryohei Oiwa. That's a difficult name to pronounce, but he's essentially a young lion anyway, so he's just there to lose matches rather than Kiyomiya losing them. And then the Gates of Agony are going to be heading over to Japan for this one, so Bishop Khan and Toa Leona, so that's cool. That's the AEW and Ring of Honor representative there.
That's a good way to just incorporate them and give them a little bit more of a spotlight. They're not, I mean, obviously they do prominently feature here and there on like Dynamite Inclusion and Rampage and ROH and stuff, but you know, it's not.
They're the Ring of Honor 6-man tag champions now, so
yeah, they won those belts back. That's all right.
Yeah, we had and then that's the A block. So B block is Bishamon, who are the current tag team champions and also won the World Tag League both last year and the year before that. But because they're the champions, it's very unlikely they'll win this one. Because why would they win a tournament that's meant to determine who the next challenger for them would be? But that's how they work on this.
But
these pros.
It has happened before with the G1 though. You said before, right?
Yeah, but that was like years and years and years ago. Like it's not a very common practice. I'd say they could win it, and then they would they would choose who their challengers would be. That's kind of the reward for them winning it. If they win, they'll get to choose their own opponent.
Yeah.
So then you had Hikuleo and El Fantasmo, who are the current strong openweight tag champions. Yuji Nagata and Minoru Suzuki, like two 53-year-old men, I believe, competing in this one. Actually, not 50, they're 56-year-olds. Sorry,
you're giving a little too much credit there.
Just five guys, just two guys of just five guys with Taichi and Yuya Uemura, Yota Tsuji and someone who's yet to be announced. So that's a TVA for him, but apparently it's someone who he's worked with outside of New Japan. So I believe it'll be someone from CMLL, probably. Speaking of CMLL, we got Soberana Jr. and Atlantis Jr., who are just like this fun luchador tag team. And then we got Monster Source, which is Lance Archer and Alex Zane. So another AEW representative there. And then you have Bad Luck Fale and Jack Bonder, who are kind of the Australian collective that will be appearing on this one. Well, technically New Zealand, I guess, for Bad Luck Fale, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They do have a pretty big presence, New Japan, in Australia and New Zealand, so it makes sense to have a tag team representing that there. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting and unique lineup for World Tag League. As I say, I'm not going to watch it that closely because most World Tag League takes place during a kind of a house show tour for them, so they're kind of just going to be having the same matches over and over and over again, pretty much, because you don't want to exert yourself too much on these kind of tours. So, but it's an interesting lineup, and I think that just from my side of things, as the one that knows more about these ones, I'm not sure if you have a prediction in mind about who's going to win.
Well, the winner fights the champions at Wrestle Kingdom, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
I don't have any idea in mind.
Well, a lot of people are predicting, and I kind of agree with them, there'll be Shota Umino and Ren Narita that will win, because Shota's been having a really good year. I mean, he's the guy that fought Will Ospreay in that match for the UK title a couple of weeks ago that was absolutely incredible. And Ren Narita is kind of also in that, has had a decent year, nowhere near as good as Shota's, but they're part of these new Three Musketeers that they've created for this year, the new young upstarts of the company. So they're teaming up together. They've teamed up a couple of times before, so I think it makes sense that they should be on Wrestle Kingdom, even though I think they probably should be more prominently featured than just in a tag match. But
Is the other third Yota Tsuji?
Yeah, that's the other guy.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's in it as well, but with a random guy that we don't know yet. So
But that's not enticing enough to be like, oh well, his random person might be the reason why he and that person win.
No, I would be surprised, really. I think that probably that other guy has been brought in to probably take the falls in his matches. That's just my assumption. But I think what will happen is, because they're doing World Tag League in a similar way to they do G1, so there's going to be a semi-finals and then a final. So two teams go through to the semi-finals, and then there's a final between the winners of those matches. So I think the likelihood is that on the A block, it's going to be Shota Umino and Ren Narita, and then probably either TMDK or Bullet Club War Dogs will be the other team that goes through. And then on the B block, I think Bishamon, who are the tag champions, will make it to the semi-finals and lose. And then it will probably be either Hikuleo and El Fantasmo, or I'd say Yota Tsuji and Yuya Uemura. They're the likely ones to be the other team that goes through in that block. But I'll say, I think that Ren Narita and Shota Umino make the most sense to be the challengers. So yeah, that's basically on New Japan. I've said what the updates to the Wrestle Kingdom card would be, and the Lonestar Shootout and the Tag League. So that's pretty much where we are, a couple of months out from Wrestle Kingdom.
At what point are they pretty much going to be locked in on the Wrestle Kingdom card?
Probably as soon as World Tag League ends, which would be in early December.
And then that's like the full card, or are they just going to announce random matches like 3 days beforehand?
They don't really announce random matches. They'll have like their pre-show thing, which they won't announce too much in advance. where they'll have like a
big like Royal Rumble
match.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So we won't know who's going to be. We'll know some names that are going to be in that. We can basically guess because it'll basically be most of the people that are on the main card. But yeah, they won't announce that in advance of things of most of the people that will be involved. But we'll know the main card well in advance of the show happening.
Still haven't quite decided, depending on what ends up happening throughout this beginning of the year and all. Every year we always talk about like, oh, maybe we'll do some kind of a watch along or something, and then it ends up being that day. And then it's like, oh crap, you know what I mean? January 4th is, of course, it's right after New Year, so it might be doable, might not be. Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday's probably not gonna work for me, brother.
Thursday's kind of tough. Yeah, it's not a weekend, so
I think next year's one, so the 2025 one, should I say? Because obviously next year is technically the next Wrestle Kingdom, so the year after that is a Saturday, so maybe we could do it on then.
Yeah, we'll see. But obviously we have a little bit of time, a few weeks before we get to that point, so we'll let you guys know when that ends up being the case. Speaking of the tournament stuff, I'll give an update here to the Champsgiving tournament that's going on right now. I just, before we started recording, put up the 4th round because round 3 is over. And we are in a situation now where Crime Time had defeated Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid, who had previously beaten the Funks in the previous round. They are going to be going up against Bret Hart and Owen Hart, who beat the Real Americans. Not at all surprised on either of those two fronts. Big Cass and Enzo beat the Rhodes Scholars, and they are going up against the Bella Twins, who won that triple threat match against the Divas of Doom and Trish Stratus and Lita. So our final 4 is Crime Time versus Bret and Owen Hart, Big Cass and Enzo against Bella Twins. I am anticipating Crime Time beating Bret and Owen, and I'm not sure about Big Cass and Enzo or Bella Twins. That could go either way, but at this point, I'm leaning more towards Crime Time's going to win this tournament.
They're definitely a good shout for it. I think whoever wins the Crime Time versus Bret and Owen match is going to win the tournament.
There could be a groundswell of support on the women's side, but I think it's kind of... If Crime Time ends up going up against Big Cass and Enzo, I think Crime Time wins. If it's Crime Time against Bella Twins, then I think there's more of a chance Crime Time might lose. But we'll see. You guys have a couple days to vote on that. I don't know when exactly I'm going to turn that off because I keep just turning the poll off at random times, but most likely I will turn it off Friday morning, sometime before we get into the hot tags on next week's edition. And, vote while you can. Head on over to smark@moment.com. You can find this on the homepage. You can find it on the sidebar. You can find it on the Champsgiving label if you go over there. Lots of different ways for you to find it, but it's pretty straightforward. Now you only have 2 matches to vote for. So go ahead and do that. And, we'll tell you any kind of updates next week. Let's bounce around to some other WWE topics here. This one's something I don't really have too much to talk about, but I mean, we should mention it because it is the thing. WWE has new merchandise things going on here. And this is something that it sounds like it's exactly the same sort of thing as what they've been doing with the NFL, just to a certain, slightly different. But they have a partnership now going on with the Big 12 Conference, which, Calvin, I didn't even really know 100% exactly what it was. We are not avid football American football watchers, I should put it that way. They have a deal going on with the next season with that. It's going to be tying into Dr. Pepper in some fashion. So they are really getting these deals going these past few years, because that's not the only one, even just today, that has been announced. The other one is being that they have joined forces with the Major League Baseball side of things as well. It's not just football, it's baseball as well. With only 4, though, of the franchises, which is kind of interesting to me. It's the St. Louis Cardinals, the Texas Rangers, the Boston Red Sox, and the Chicago Cubs. They're going to be selling luchador masks with their color schemes and all. $80 a piece, which, I mean, if you're a big Red Sox fan and a big WWE fan, you might be interested in doing that. I not only am not, but if I were to get anything of any kind of baseball team, it would be Philly. So that's not even applicable here. But yeah, this is not speaking to Callum and I as far as like, these great merchandise deals. We can't wait to get these things. Or at least as far as I'm aware, you're not planning on getting a Cubs luchador mask, right?
Nah, not particularly.
It's good for them, though. I mean, the more that they do this stuff, the more that the WWE name gets put out there, the more that they can get these big cash payments of whatever I don't know what kind of cut they get out of this compared to like the NFL or MLB or whatever, but it's not a bad thing, that's for sure. And I don't know how well these football belts have been selling, but they've been really putting them out there. So there's a chance that maybe they've been selling pretty well.
Yeah, the people that are running WWE's business and their kind of the marketing and PR side of things for this kind of deal is doing a very good job. But they make loads of money, so it doesn't really surprise me that they're finding new ways to make loads more money. So yeah, it doesn't matter how creatively bankrupt they might feel in terms of like creative side of things, but they keep those people were keeping them very, very wealthy. So good on those people for doing so.
I'm surprised that they have not yet. I mean, I guess it's just a matter of time that they haven't set up something now with hockey or with basketball, or for all we know, it's going to be like WWE has a brand new thing with lacrosse or field hockey or something. But it could just be that they haven't dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's for like the NHL to have the same championship belts and so on. But I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot more about this over episodes of Raw and SmackDown and all. They're going to be harping that. It's going to be, WWE is proud to announce that we have a partnership with Big 12 Conference, blah, blah, blah. And somebody like me, I'll end up being like, they're going to talk about that for a few minutes. I'm going to go get a piece of chocolate or something and not really pay too much attention. Yeah, if you're out there and you're interested in picking that stuff up, though, that's something to keep in mind, that you got that merchandise coming out pretty soon. If you do, let us know. What's the quality of those luchador masks and stuff? But I think more so, you should be picking up merchandise on Redbubble and TeePublic. If you're going to be spending the money on that, pick up Smark and stuff. Or Fanboys Anonymous. Or a Mango Tees. It's all good. WWE outside of that talk, there is more talk about John Cena. Two things, funny enough. One thing is that he is set to host a new TV show. It's a talk series on, seems like it might be Roku, according to this thing that I'm reading right now. It's called What Drives You? And the description for it's not standing out to me as something that I would watch. I don't really care too much about if John Cena is hosting it, then I'm certainly going to watch it or anything. But the way that they're pitching this, it says, What Drives You will follow Cena and his celebrity friends as they hit the road in the guests' favorite vehicles. During these in-depth interviews, the guests will reminisce on the memories associated with their special ride while engaging in both hilarious and deeply personal conversations. The car you drive and where you drive it can say a lot about who you are, from your personality to what you value and prioritize the most. What Drives You is all about tapping into this and each guest's unique connection to their car and a destination close to their heart as the crux of a candid and wide-ranging conversation. It's a great opportunity for me to ride shotgun and learn from some of the world's most entertaining and inspiring individuals. I fundamentally don't care. I'm not a car guy. I do not worship celebrities. I can't imagine almost anybody being on this show in a way that I would find all that interesting, because I didn't even watch more than a few episodes of Jerry Seinfeld's Celebrities in Cars Having Coffee. And that's more my speed, because that would be like, they're going to talk about comedy stuff and they're going to crack jokes. I don't know who's going to be on this, but if it's like, Cena's in the car with this prominent musician that I don't care about. Yeah, I don't need to know that they really care about their Mustang or something, you know?
Yeah, it's clearly a show for car people.
Yeah. And people that are into celebrities.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this feels like it's a combination of like Top Gear, Carpool Karaoke, and John Cena's Twitter profile.
Yeah, that's pretty true.
Yeah, it's pretty well established that Cena is a big fan of muscle cars. So I imagine he seems to be a good choice for this role. And yeah, we'll see what sort of people he does want to bring in. But yeah, it's not something that I might see like a clip just come up on my Twitter feed every now and again, but it's not something that I'm going to actively seek out.
A lot of these things, it might be something that I would at least watch one episode of just to give it a shot, but I'm not going to bother whatsoever, especially because it's on Roku. I don't have a Roku thing set up. So, no, I'm not going to go out of my way for that. But one thing that's on the positive front, at least, is that new Coyote versus Acme film that we had talked about previously. They shelved it. And Warner Brothers Discovery's been doing this whole thing about, let's make this movie and then let's write off it for tax purposes and not ever release it because for some reason they think it's not going to make at least $30 million, which is what they had spent on making the movie, apparently. I know that they would obviously have to spend more on marketing on top of that, but it's a pretty prominent brand. I think that they could have made more money than that, but now they are backtracking on that whole tax write-off thing, and they are now allowing the movie to be shopped around to be released on other platforms. So if Netflix wants to pick it up, or Paramount, or anybody, Tubi or something, I think that's the name of one of those things. There's a million streaming services out there. Who knows who might be willing to pay for it, but they're going to have to pay a hefty chunk because Warner Brothers Discovery is going to need to make at least that $30 million for them to justify it. I can't picture somebody spending, $40 million to get this, but maybe they are. I don't know. Maybe Apple TV is desperate to get into the Wile E. Coyote game. But at least if it is released in some fashion, then more than likely you're going to have a future fan tracks over on Fanboys Anonymous about it. But we talked about it a little bit before. It's not something that I would be jumping at the bit to watch. I'll check it out, but I think Rob, out of the three of us, is the one that would be the most excited for sure.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. But I'm a fan of the Looney Tunes. Like Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner is a fun time when you watch some of the old cartoons of them. But yeah, it feels like there's been a lot of interesting talk about this particular movie and how much blowback it's gotten to just trying to immediately write it off as a tax cut for them. And and then basically doing this one decision could have seriously put Warner Brothers in serious jeopardy because people just saying, oh, you're just going to do that. Okay, well, this movie idea is not going to you anymore.
Right.
So it's going over to this guy instead. But yeah, so hopefully they learn their lesson.
I know if I were working for Warner Brothers Pictures and, especially on like the animated front or something where they play around with things a little bit more, if somebody's like, yeah, we really want you to do this movie, I'd be like, you look, based off your track record, you don't do them. So I don't know if I really want to invest my time. And, this is not a small project either. Like this is the stories by James Gunn. It's being produced by James Gunn. That's the guy who's leading the charge on the new DC films coming forward. And obviously he's, well known for plenty of other things, Guardians of the Galaxy and such. But, it's not like it's a bunch of no names we're working on this movie. And it's a major, major property. And they still, with John Cena and Will Forte and all, they were like, hey, now it's got good reviews apparently from the people that watched it. They still thought that they didn't want to release it like that. And you know the plot, by the way?
No, I don't.
So it's, if I remember correctly, the way that it's kind of set up is Wile E. Coyote's gotten so pissed off that all the Acme products backfire on him that he's suing them. And I think that Cena is like the CEO of Acme. And it's like a
that makes sense.
Like a kind of thing with like a court case from Wile E. Coyote versus Acme Corporation or whatever. And Will Forte, I think, is his like lawyer or something. Which is like, that sounds like an interesting enough pitch. I
like it. I like the idea.
I don't know if it is something that would appeal as much to kids. Like, we'd have to see a trailer for it to see what it actually, like, how they make that something that people will want to watch. But I'm interested enough in the concept. I hope that they release it in some fashion. Let's see, what else can we bounce around here on WWE? Backlash. Talked about it before. We got confirmation now. Backlash is coming to France, May 2024. And this is now confirmed, May 3rd, 2024, I should specify. The whole idea of this like expansion into different markets for that, I'm going to echo what I've been saying from the start. This has been a good thing. The crowds are hot. They haven't had these shows, so it's cool for those fans to finally be able to get like a prominent thing. And I mean, Backlash isn't the best. You know, it's not like you're getting WrestleMania, but you might get some good spillback of what happened at Mania. Pretty neat.
Yeah. So it's these new European shows, or like just worldwide shows, as it were, because I've done stuff in Australia as well. Yeah, it's a big upside thing for WWE, because they are presenting shows in front of audiences that are starved for this kind of pro wrestling, like definitely from the biggest name out there. So you get a crowd that's excited. You usually get some fun matches out of it, or some more interesting style matches because of the different audience they're playing in front of. Yeah, obviously they're probably going to get a huge amount of money out of the back of it as well, which is one of the big reasons for it. But again, this is another smart business move that Nick Khan has probably been at the helm of, because all this stuff has kind of started pretty much soon after he arrived, starting with the Saudi Arabia deal and then moving into all this stuff as well. So I think that he's probably playing a big role in the more global expansion of WWE into actually, being, I guess is this the global local thing that they were saying about?
Global localization, yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's just this is that in action, I imagine. So
I think that this applies to that based off of what they had kind of said before, which is like, I don't know why they didn't do this kind of stuff before. You'd think that would be a no-brainer,
But I think there was just a case of they just wanted to keep things simple. Like at that point in time, now that they have quote-unquote competition, or that, and I don't know whether it's just AEW related or just the overall competition of TV and the importance of building the brand worldwide, it's a case of, okay, we can't just rest on our laurels, because there are other people out there that are also trying to jump into the wrestling market and trying to attract some people. So what can we do to help separate ourselves even more? Okay, we're just going to go everywhere and put on big shows in places and make those our pay-per-views instead. Yeah, as I say, they've it's a masterstroke all the way around. Like there's literally no downside to doing this, apart from the fact that for some American fans, I imagine that it can be a bit annoying having to get up at a different time to have to watch stuff or fit your time around it. But other than that, I don't think there's any real negative to these decisions. It's a smart thing, and realistically, any wrestling company that has the budget to do so, which realistically is only WWE and maybe AEW at a push, should be doing this stuff.
And for all the people that are like, oh, I don't want to get up that early or whatever, you can watch it on Peacock later, and everybody from these other companies used to get up and, sort out their pay-per-views at a different time before. You can fucking suck it up. I don't know what time, of course, the time zone difference is going to, I don't know what France is on right now, but I'll be watching it. We'll do a pay-per-view point. It'll be the thing. But they got Germany coming up and Bash in Berlin. They got the show in France. They got the...
Who's the big person they bring back for the France show? He's got to be Rene Dupree, right?
Yeah. They bring back...
Andre from the Dead.
Jean-Pierre Lafitte. I know, you know what happens? Triple H goes back to being Jean-Paul Levesque.
Oh, yeah. It could bring back a guy that looks like, or like is a big guy like Andre the Giant, like the fake Yokozuna. I just have him be Andre the Giant for the show.
What's the name of the dudes from NXT that they weren't all that good? They feuded with Enzo and Cass for a while.
Sylvester LaForte and Marcus Louis.
Marcus Louis, yeah. I was just like, I'm Sylvester something and something. I couldn't remember their names offhand.
Yeah, you could bring those back. Yeah. Bring back all of La Resistance. Like, I don't know any, but there aren't that many. There's not a litany of like French wrestlers from the past to do it.
Frenchie Martin. He's still around.
I don't know.
I don't know. Now that I said that, I'm like, wait, did he pass away? I don't know for sure.
Maurice. I mean, she's Canadian technically, but she can speak
French Canadian. So. That's about close. It's not close enough. They don't, unfortunately, have a big track record of people that they can bring in there for any like specific things, and they don't have even like Pat Patterson that they can, like he passed away a few years ago. So
Amale isn't with NXT anymore, is she?
No, she got released a couple months ago, or she might have been released with the big NXT UK call.
Yeah, that could have happened.
But she might be back by then. Maybe they started up NXT Europe.
That's never going to happen.
I don't think it really will, to be honest. Apparently, that's one of the big things that they're trying to get Will Ospreay with. It's like, you could be the face of that. And it's like, but why would you want to be the face of NXT Europe?
Would you want to like potentially main event a show at Wembley Stadium, or do you want to be the head? Do you want to be the front man of our fourth most important promotion?
Yeah.
in our subgroup. Yeah. I would swiftly say no unless they were offering me like,
truckloads of cash.
If they're offering me like a good like double digit millions and I only have to wrestle 4 times a year, then I'm probably going to do it. But that doesn't really feel like Ospreay's mindset, really.
Yeah, for that matter, I don't think Ospreay's going to WWE in almost any fashion. I think that he's keeping his options open, but that he's pretty much looking at it as like, all right, well, I'm going to Impact or I'm going to AEW. And I'm still just banking on the idea MJF's not going to WWE. He's going to resign.
Oh, I'd go even further than that. I think he already has re-signed.
Wouldn't shock me if that's the case. Yeah. As far as some other WWE stuff that we got going on here, let's talk about the LWO. Let's go back to SmackDown from last week and talk about, there were 2 turns that happened. One of them's not really necessarily a heel turn. People were kind of asking me about that. They're like, is Asuka a heel now? And I'm like, well, she was kind of a heel already before. They never really turned her babyface. She was sort of in that tweener range. And I don't know if you classify that a heel turn, but Asuka has joined Damage Control. And at least it's temporary. It might be a more permanent thing, but I am not 100% sold that it is. But I could see a scenario where we're looking at Damage Control completely switching over and being Asuka, Kairi, and Io, and then pushing Dakota and Bayley out there.
I think that there's a good chance they'll push Bayley out. I don't think Dakota will get pushed out of the group. No, I think that based on the way that they presented it, again, I didn't watch the whole show, but I saw the clips of this, that the way they kind of presented it was that Bayley was the one that was a bit awkward about this whole thing and didn't feel very assured about what all this meant. Whereas Dakota was right on board with it. So I think that maybe eventually Dakota gets kicked out, but I think that Dakota is actually pretty locked in. I think Bayley is the odd one out in this scenario and would eventually be the one that is turning babyface off the back of this to go against this new heel group. Maybe Dakota will get pushed out eventually, but I think that at least initially it would just be Bayley that gets thrown out. But and it's quite weird that like how suddenly SmackDown's women's division becomes one of the biggest drawing points and one of the most interesting aspects of WWE's TV right now. After being like earlier this year, just being like, wow, they're just not doing anything with anybody, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of depth there. And now it feels like vibrant because they've got a big faction now that's running roughshod and has the women's title, and now they've got to find a collective that's going to be the one that takes them down at Survivor Series. So yeah, I think that this turn was very, very successful, as was potentially the other one, but that's one's kind of more wait and see approach.
And that other one is they had set up the whole setup at Crown Jewel. I mean, we talked about it then. Santos Escobar put the brass knuckles down on the apron. Logan Paul was able to use them. He hits Rey Mysterio. He ends up winning the United States Championship. And then out of that, Carlito on the episode was like, hey, you shouldn't be mad at Logan Paul. You should be mad at Santos Escobar. He's the one that put that shit down there, which is like one of the most logical things that's out there in WWE that they very rarely ever do. So I commend them for doing that. And that turns into a situation where after a Bobby Lashley and Carlito match, Escobar just decided to turn heel. He attacked Rey Mysterio, said, you made me do this, which is, I don't really know if that's the wording that they needed to go with, but it kind of seems like they're going to go in an LWO versus LWO offshoot type thing. Maybe they end up feuding over the LWO name. Maybe they go back with Legado del Fantasma. There was a little bit of a tease that I had seen of Angel Garza and Humberto maybe joining up with Santos Escobar. I could see this playing out at WrestleMania, but it's going to take a little bit of time because Rey Mysterio just underwent knee surgery, so he's out for a couple weeks.
That's that immediately screams Royal Rumble return for Rey Mysterio to take out Santos from the Royal Rumble
if he's able to. I think that it's 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah,
I mean 6 to 8 weeks, and he doesn't have to do much in the Rumble.
True.
So I think that
he doesn't even have to be in the Royal Rumble. He could come out and just interfere.
Exactly.
That's true.
So I think that Mysterio versus Escobar, or some collective that's led by Escobar versus some collective led by Rey Mysterio, would be a good match to have at WrestleMania. So it's quite good that they've applied the seeds for that now.
What would you like to see the lineup be?
I think it makes sense to do Santos with. I would personally go. It just makes more sense to me for Santos to be with Cruz, Del Toro, and Joaquin Wilde, just because that was what the Legado del Fantasma was. But maybe he could tell the story of like they've gone soft under Mysterio's leadership as the LWO, and to be fair, they haven't been winning a lot of matches. So maybe he bringing in a fresh team of Angel Garza and Humberto to be the new team for it. Because I just don't know, if you have the others go into it and you don't bring up Angel and Humberto, who do you really have Mysterio teaming with? Like Carlito, and that's really it. So, yeah, and who does Zelina Vega go with? Does she stay with Mysterio? Does she go with Santos? It's hard to really predict at the moment, but I would probably... I think it will eventually lead to just Mysterio versus Santos at WrestleMania. I think they'll do it one-on-one.
Without having the other people in there, they just kind of ringside or something?
Yeah, they might be involved, surrounding the ring, but I think it will just be a one-on-one match. And they could do, some sort of career stipulation or, mask stipulation involved with it.
Maybe they do the mask versus hair thing or something that we always thought that they were going to do with Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah, they could definitely do a hair thing with Santos. I think that would work.
Depending on what Judgment Day ends up doing at Mania, I could see Santos getting Dominic on his side temporarily.
He could do, but I think it's maybe a bit weird to just retread Mysterio and Mysterio again at WrestleMania.
Yeah, and he wouldn't be the focal point; it would be Santos. So, more than likely, that's not going to happen. He's probably going to be involved in some kind of Judgment Day affair. But
I mean, realistically, we don't actually know, because this is Mysterio's, I think, 10th knee surgery. So we don't know. Obviously, he might only be out for 6 to 8 weeks, but how long can he really keep going with with knees that have been repaired multiple times over?
Yeah, at some point, it's going to be He's got to
retire at some point.
Yeah, I think he had said he wanted to retire relatively soon too, maybe 2 years from now or something.
I mean, Santos is a good choice to be the guy that retires him. So, anyway, I mean, you could add Dragon Lee to Mysterio's faction as well. Just remember that he's there as well.
He's got, if they want to do Rey, Carlito, and Dragon Lee against Santos, Cruz del Toro, and Joaquin Wilde. They could do that. I wouldn't be opposed to Angel and Humberto getting brought in here because they're not doing anything in NXT that's like that would take them away from there. And then I don't know who else really would be in the range. Like I'm blanking on like who could get called up or who could be brought back. I don't think that they would just be like, let's bring in Juventud or something, you know.
But it is, again, it's another thing of like, maybe this is right or wrong, but it's sad state of affairs that we're only looking at Mexican wrestlers and not thinking that anyone else could literally team up with either Mysterio or Santos Escobar unless they're Hispanic.
Yeah, well, that's currently like the thing that people are workshopping is it going to be like a feud over the LWO, and Zelina kind of stuck in between the two and all. I don't think Santos would end up starting a new group of people that aren't necessarily, but then again, I mean, for all we know, maybe they want to tag him up with
Briggs and Jensen.
It's Pretty Deadly or something, you know, like I don't like off the top of my head, there isn't anybody else that stands out to me other than Angel and Humberto that could be brought in for this. And, you know, I mean, there are people like Raquel and all, but that's just the women's division. And I don't think they're going to sign anybody particular for this or bring people back just for the sake of it. So I would trust more than likely that it would be Santos, Cruz del Toro, and Joaquin Wilde against Rey, Carlito, and Dragon Lee if they don't want to just do a singles match. But I guess we're going to find out. That's something that we got to keep an eye on, though, with Rey Mysterio's injury and see how that plays out a little bit. Rob sent me this. I haven't read it yet, but he sent me that a minute ago. So this is something worth maybe talking about. NWA expected to make roster and production cuts.
Hooray.
Remember that 2 weeks ago when it was like, oh, we're getting a big multi-year deal with the CW and it's going to be this big thing and it's going to change us all around and we're going to upgrade all of our stuff. Then they do a cocaine angle and it seems like that is completely ruined things for them.
Yeah, sometimes good things happen when you least expect it to.
You know, once in a while when you trip and you fall, it's because you didn't tie your own shoelaces. And I don't know if that's a phrase or if I just made that up, but I kind of like that phrasing now that I just said that. NWA it is what it is. We've talked about it a million times. They're not a company that we follow because we just don't really like what they do. And I was not anticipating that this CW thing would be a game changer in any way that would make me want to watch it. But now that they are seemingly just turning a 180 and it's going from major upgrades, big things coming, we're going to upgrade our everything, to now we kind of can't. We got to do the opposite. I really kind of wouldn't mind if they just folded and those people went elsewhere. As long as those people don't fully lose their jobs, that's the thing that matters to me the most. And if they can find spots on the roster in like Impact, or if, you know, the production people can find jobs elsewhere or whatever, I'd be fine with NWA just going away. But WWE still got a couple more things to talk about here. Monday Night Raw. A little bit of NXT talk. See what happened on Raw. Let me refresh my memory because every week I get to a point where I just lose track of what happened on there. Cody had started the whole thing. Judgment Day interrupted. We had the tag title match a little bit later on. And the biggest story out of all this, of course, is that Drew McIntyre decided to turn heel. He has, at least as an ally, decided to work with Judgment Day. Since it ended the show, there's no confirmation of like he is a part of the Judgment Day. Although they did finally officially induct JD McDonough. Took him fucking long enough, right?
Yeah. I mean, wasn't the big thing on this show that like Damian Priest announced that he's the leader of the Judgment Day? At
least temporarily.
Was compelled to be the leader of the Judgment Day. And so yeah, him saying that, okay, I'm the leader now, so JD McDonough's in. But like, even though he was the guy that wanted JD McDonough out.
Yeah. But he's only the leader for Judgment Day. For for War Games.
For War Games.
Yeah, he's like the de facto leader of that team.
But he wants to be the leader.
Yeah.
Actually the leader.
Because it all started with him being like, I'm the leader. And, causing more friction with the group like that. It's a matter of time before Damian Priest is outed from that group.
Sure.
You don't think it's going to happen?
Maybe. I assume at some point, but I don't know if it will happen before WrestleMania.
It might happen at Mania or something, for all we know. Yeah, but
but that's kind of like because that's kind of like year end thing for me. But I think that but yeah, he's the guy that would eventually get kicked out of it. But he's not doing anything that is making him likable as a babyface to fight Judgment Day beyond that point. I kind of like what I dislike heel turns that happen, and then the other guy, because he got turned on, is now de facto babyface.
Sometimes it's really hard to work that out. They have to have them turn babyface to split from the group, rather than you outed the heel and then the heel just starts teaming up with babyfaces for no reason. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, the building up to War Games. It's a decent enough build. Obviously, it's been going on way too long. These Judgment Day versus Cody and friends, but at least the end is in sight.
And of course, now that they have Drew McIntyre in there, if they announce that he is an official 5th member of that team, then we are going to be incorporating another babyface on Team Cody Rhodes, which it's got to be Randy Orton. If it's not, then who fucking knows who that would end up being? They're not just going to be like suddenly, I don't know, Apollo Crews is on here, which he's apparently back from an injury. I didn't even know that he was injured. So that's good. But the most of the other stuff that happened on Monday Night Raw, not really worth talking about. The Alpha Academy still has Akira Tozawa doing his little shuffle. Miz beat Ivar. Blah, whatever, Okay. Now NXT had some pretty interesting things that went down. Interesting is not necessarily, good all across the board, but interesting as in strange in some ways. The show started with Chase University losing the tag titles back to Tony D'Angelo and Channing Stacks Lorenzo, because they are really harping on this scandal thing with Chase U that they're not saying anything about, which to me reads as they don't know what the scandal story is. They just know they want to tell that story. So that's why they don't want to give any kind of details about anything. And it's funny to hear Booker T being like, they don't have any proof. It's like, proof of what? There's not even an accusation yet. It's just them saying scandal. It's not a good story.
Yeah, it's like, I've not really watched NXT, but I've again heard through the grapevine of this stuff. And first of all, I'm annoyed because I took Tony D'Angelo out of my fantasy team because it seemed like bizarre. They've just win the tag title straight back again. But yeah, I think that there doesn't seem to have been like a huge thing other than just like some speculation and some backstage segments or parking lot things where it looks like he's in trouble over something, but they haven't been. I mean, maybe they've just been deliberately hiding a lot of the stuff that's involved, but it's it's not exactly the most entertaining thing in the world.
There was the Warriors tea ceremony. Did you see anything about that?
I assume it's Xia Li involved in it. But...
Yeah, Xia Li inviting Lyra Valkyria to a Warriors tea ceremony to say that, like, this is a respectful thing to do before you do combat, and Lyra refusing to drink the tea and all that. This was bad. It was like they had to pre-tape it naturally, and I'm sure that these were the best takes that they did, but they shouldn't do any more of these things. So was the Supernova Sessions. That wasn't good either with Alpha Academy for that record. Or Joe Gacy's thing. I mean, Joe Gacy's doing a whole nother, I'm totally unhinged, you guys. I'm like, it's so dark and shit. I hated all that stuff this week.
Yeah. Shawn Michaels isn't very good at his job. It's like, I don't know. NXT's getting a lot of views recently, so it's hard to really complain too much. But it kind of worries me that this is what people are interested in wrestling.
Also, it's disappointing that Lash Legend beat Roxanne Perez to get into the Iron Survivor Challenge match.
And listen, you have to sometimes put shit people in a match.
I was like, how is he going to navigate this?
Like sometimes you have to do it in order to make whoever wins look well, because Roxanne's not going to win, and you're trying to keep the better people out of that match. Because there's no way Lash Legend's going to win the Iron Survivor Challenge, so you just have whoever wins it beating people that are less important than the ones you want to somewhat protect. I mean, Roxanne should be in the main roster. Why is she even doing these things anyway?
Some people are speculating that the reason why she's not in this is because they're going to put her in the War Games match, which I don't see any connection to that whatsoever, but I'd be cool with it. Roxanne being in that would be pretty fun.
But yeah, nothing like completely unexpected for this. It's not good to have Roxanne lose to Lash Legend, but it's not like they treat Lash Legend like she's nothing.
Oh, she is not the only person that qualified. Also, Trick Williams beat Joe Coffey to qualify. But this is also where we get into the spoilers for next week, because they did tape NXT in advance. So if anybody doesn't want to know, go back and make sure you fast forward a little bit or whatever. But this is your spoiler warning for next week's lineup. I'll say everything that happened on there, but it's some Iron Survivor stuff as well. Apparently Lyra Valkyria gets attacked by Xia Li, and then later on she retains the title. Not at all surprising that she beats Xia Li on a regular episode of NXT. Noam Dar retains the Heritage Cup over Chad Gable. I'm a little bit disappointed that's not on the pay-per-view. I think that could have been a good pay-per-view match, but I guess we'll see if it's good on this episode. And Eddie Thorpe beats Charlie Dempsey. He gets attacked after the match. Wesley cuts a promo about how he wants a North American title match, and Dominic Mysterio sets up a number one contenders match. I think it might be a triple threat, but I don't remember for sure. And, essentially it seems like Wesley is going to have to win a number one contenders match to get a title shot for Deadline, but he's going to. And the episode that aired, Ilya Dragunov officially declared that he is going to have a match with Baron Corbin at Deadline, so we know that's in there. I'm sure that they do some backstage stuff that goes along with that. Nothing really to report on the spoiler side on that front. Idris Enofe and Malik Blade lose to Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo. That's more than likely trying to set up Garza and Carrillo against Tony D and Stax for the pay-per-view, but they might not necessarily bother to put that on the pay-per-view. It might be on an episode of NXT. I could talk. I speak English. And the two other Iron Survivor Challenge qualifiers are Josh Briggs beating Carmelo Hayes, which is really shocking, and Blair Davenport beating Thea Hale, which is not as shocking. Blair Davenport's, of course, like a major threat to Lyra Valkyria. Briggs beating Hayes, though. Huh.
So the spoiler said that Lexis King was involved in it, causing a distraction, which led to Carmelo losing. Are you finally on board with the fact that Lexis King has no aura about him?
So
he, were you kind of thought by, I don't know whether it was last week or a couple of weeks ago, with him not realizing that he can't put sunglasses in a shirt with no pockets?
I didn't notice that. I'm gonna have to go back and check that out.
That was when he was he came out to interrupt the promo segment with Carmelo and Trick Williams, and then he's wearing sunglasses and he goes to put them in some pockets, but he realizes he's got no pockets on his jacket, so he just had to throw them out the ring.
I didn't notice that. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely check that on a rewatch. I'll say this: I really liked what I had seen of him up until these past two episodes, and like the promo that was backstage here with Baron Corbin and Lexis King on this episode that aired on Tuesday night, it wasn't good. It was like, oh, I'm doing some great things and I'm looking forward to seeing you out there, buddy, and whatever. And I was just like, this is really awkward. I don't know.
I think I'm more to the point, like, after I saw that segment, because obviously people did put it on Twitter, because everyone is now just laughing at the fact that like Brian Pillman Jr. is not hasn't got a lot of swag about him. And then I just watched that and think, oh, they're doing this deliberately. I almost feel like they're making him initially a bit of a dweeb early on. I don't know why. I don't know to what end, but they must be doing it deliberately, because he can't be that bad. But he kind of is. It's weird. So there must be some. I almost feel like maybe I'm even giving him too much of the benefit of the doubt, but there must be some reason why he's not landing for me or a lot of people in the way that you might expect. So, but we'll see. I mean, he seems to be on the route to be feuding with Carmelo Hayes. Probably they might have a match at Deadline, or at least in and around Deadline. So,
yeah, I can see that happening. Some mid-card match in there, or depending on how they want to do this whole story, because they are still hinting that he being Lexus King,
was the one that attacked Trick.
That he attacked Trick, but they're not confirming it. They're going on this whole, like, it still could be Carmelo Hayes, and
I think he's pretending that he did it to try and get clout.
Yeah, I think that's the story that they're going to eventually tell, because they made a point to say that Trick didn't see who attacked him. So Lexus King can be like, it was me, haha. And then it's like, no, it wasn't you. It was Carmelo. And I highly doubt that turns, in a way that it's like King versus Carmelo, and then King turns babyface or something out of this. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. But
I mean, I really want the story to be, and I don't know which way around you get to it, but I want the story to be that Trick Williams attacked himself.
Either, but like to get himself out of the match, or is it he's got a split personality?
I mean, either way works for me, but I'd probably go with just him getting out of the match, or like to him trying to frame Carmelo for it.
All right, now I say this pitch, knowing full well to say in advance, this is not the type of stuff that I would legitimately pitch if I worked for WWE, for anybody who's wondering. But if they would have done this around the time as Halloween Havoc was happening and all, maybe it was his evil clone, Treat Williams.
Just to do the Spider-Man name.
Right, he just points at him.
Yeah.
And then they could have the trick or treat match, and But again, this is not the type of shit I legitimately would pitch if I was in a writer's room in WWE. I would pitch that as a joke and go, no, but seriously, why don't we make it Carmelo Hayes?
Yeah, but the trick or treat match would be Carmelo Hayes just having a match with himself and trying to figure out which does he go on the trick side, does he go to the treat side?
It depends on how the crowd goes.
Yeah. Essentially, he's like, his right arm wants to go with Trick, and his left arm wants to go with Treat, and so he's now fighting both his arms on it. And then, this would make an NXT much more entertaining.
Oh, I would totally be down for this, because he punches himself in the face with the right and the left hand, and the crowd has to go, boo, yeah, boo. And then it's like, oh, the left one.
Treat.
And then eventually they start chanting, whoop that treat. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
This is candy.
Yeah. Well, those are the hot tags. That's a good way to end that off, right? Obviously, if anything changes over the course of the next 24 hours or so that lead into Full Gear, then we will address that on the Full Gear pay-per-view point post show, but that is coming up on Saturday night. No pay-per-view talk tomorrow because there's no podcast tomorrow, no hot tags round 2 or anything like that, but drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you're listening elsewhere on Spotify or Amazon Music or something, then either head over to YouTube or over to the page on smarkoutmoment.com or send a tweet at smarkoutmoment. Follow us on Facebook, same thing, whatever it might be. Also, make sure you're checking out fanboysanonymous.com, the sister website to this. Follow the Blue Brand and all the things that happen there, youtube.com/fanboysanonymous, the Facebook and Twitter, and so on and so forth. That front. Go to the link tree over on amangotree.com or anthonymango.com. You'll see links to all sorts of different things, Smark Out Moment and Fanboys Anonymous related, and elsewhere. Follow me at Tony Mango. You can see those links there. A little contact form too if you want to just send feedback or something that you don't want to post elsewhere. LinkedIn account, Letterboxd, blah, blah, blah. Make sure you're following Rob, who's not here, at Dude Felice, and make sure you're following Callum.
Yep, you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out the power rankings where I rank the WWE superstars based on their recent performances over at smarkandmoment.com, and then also at smarkandmoment.com or at WWEFantasyLeague.com. You can check out the Fantasy League, see how our teams are doing, our slightly revamped teams following Crown Jewel, as we head towards Survivor Series, where the next updates and changes will be made as we head towards crowning the eventual winner at WrestleMania. So head to there to see how our teams are doing.
I think I might need to draft Treat Williams to my team. Get rid of somebody on there. Full Gear coming up as the next episode, everybody. As I mentioned, make sure you got your email alert set up for that. Stay tuned for the pay-per-view point either during the main event or immediately following the pay-per-view. We'll figure that out in the course of the next day or so. But adios for now. Thank you for listening to this round of the Hot Tags, and we will see you then. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.